Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the 15th session of the Agony Expert Series. Hi, I'm Melvin from Singapore and I'll be the moderator for today's session. So for the participants that we have here, let us get to know you more. I know some of you have been present in the previous sessions, but do tell us your name, where and what organization you're from in the chat box. While waiting for your responses, here's a quick reminder. If anyone has questions you'd like to ask David to address, there are two ways you can do it. You can unmute yourself and ask away, or you can send it through in the chat box and I'll be monitoring it and ask David on your behalf. Here's an introduction to the Agony Expert Series. Those who have joined us for past sessions have known this already, but for the first timers, you may be wondering, why Agony Expert Series? We have drawn inspiration from an agony aunt, who by definition is a person that writes a column in a newspaper or magazine in which they reply to readers who have written to them for advice on their personal problems. In short, it's kind of a play on that concept thus, the agony expert, that we have now where you, our participants, can share what problems and struggles you are facing within your organization and seek insights directly from our expert. So this is the 15th of our 17th session, as you can see on the screen. Together with 17 world-class experts that we have gathered, they'll be covering 8 different topics that are timely and relevant in our industry today. The good news is you can cherry pick what sessions you'd like to attend. So today's session is on maximizing your potential. It's the first of 3 in this week. And do you want to accurately assess your workforce to optimize your talent strategies and not let biases cloud your judgment? We have David Lowe, co-founder of Momentum Assessor, which focuses on engaging the hearts and minds of every business's most important asset. He will speak about maximizing your people's potential. Our expert will share cutting-edge strategies to maximize the potential of your workforce and more. A little intro into People. People is a consulting firm that started in 2004, sold itself and relaunched in 2020. With a consulting model geared towards the future of work, our team serves both our clients and our network of over 1,000 experts. Who are these experts? We have consultants, business leaders, thought leaders, researchers, and tech partners. Together, we deliver consulting work, speaking engagements, lunch and learns, training, coaching, instructional design, organizational and people diagnostics. Our experts deliver work across 6 broad domains: people, digital innovation, business, sustainability, change management, and design. In short, people can attend to any business challenge you might have. Do check out our website and find out more about us at www.people.com. And a quick run through of today's session. We have David to address the group for approximately 25 minutes, followed by a Q&A with you for another 25 minutes. Then we will go and wrap things up for you in the last remaining 5 minutes of the event to get feedback of what you think of today's session. Again, we would love to receive your questions. Drop them in the chat box and we'll address them during the Q&A session. I know you're all excited and I won't keep you any longer. So handing over to you, David. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Melvin. Thank you to everybody who's attending. I know my team is also here. That's Farid and Gaston and Leander. You can also ask them questions as well. Now, Melvin, I share my screen now. Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
You can start your presentation.
Okay. Let's see. So is that on now?
Yep.
No. How do I move this? Give me a second, yeah? Okay, we can see a full screen now, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What I'll do is I will introduce a bit of background into what we do. My name is David Lowe, and I have a team here, as I mentioned. That's Farid, that's Gaston, and that's Leander. All of them are in this session. Now I've got 25 minutes. So I've got to put my watch ready, so I don't sort of like get over time. So what I'd like to do is to give you a brief introduction on the background of what we do, how we help our clients, and if there are any partners around here that in today's session that would like to work with us, we'll be extremely happy to do so. We'll do a very quick introduction into Momentum Assessor and Personality Assessor, how we put things together, some user cases, and take a deeper look at the approach that we have, which is extremely unique, and then to wrap up and for question and answers. So here we go. We are a strategy practice. We specialize in unlocking human momentum that business leaders need to achieve for bigger business goals. We actually work mainly with CEOs and business owners. So we tend to give a big picture of what's going on, but as most business owners, they want granular action plans as well. So we provide that as well. We focus on two things. You'll see a term called forward momentum, and I'll explain what it is as we go through the session today. And we also specialize in hiring right. Those are the two areas where we focus our activities on. Quite a brief background on who we are. I'm a mathematician by training, and I've been in industry for a long time. What I do is I build mathematical models for business for business analysis. In this situation, in this case, to be for people analysis. We also do brand analysis and a couple other things. Professor Ronan is our cognitive scientist. He is in Ireland. He visits us 4 times a year when there's no COVID, and he does the hard stuff for us. We have a small team that's Gaston, Farid, and Leander, as I mentioned, and we do have some principal coaches who are very, very experienced in what they do. We work with all organizations of all sizes because every business needs momentum, and you'll see some are pretty large and some are pretty small, but everyone in terms of the business owners or the CEO share the same problem. And we'll see what those problems are. Actually, they are whether you're big or small, the people problems are the same, which is quite interesting. The marketing problems are different. Your business models are different, but people problems are the same, and people challenges are the same. We work in all industries. So far, we have spanned 20 industries and about 200 companies we have worked with in Malaysia and a little bit beyond in ASEAN and Hong Kong. We are quite active in Hong Kong and in China as well. And we have done something like 10,000 employee assessments across those 200 companies. So one of the things that we always ask business owners as well as our partners is, how can we help? This is how we address our business problems. For CEOs and owners, this usually come across as I've got people problems, and the people problems are A, B, C, and D, which we will look at in a couple of user cases. In terms of partners, we would like to go to market with our partners, and either we have a introductory type, referral type relationship, or in some cases, we have a reseller or we have a strategic partner that work with us. Please feel welcome to ask those questions at the end, how we can work together. We'll be thrilled to be able to do that. What I'd like to do is to play a video, which is just a 1-minute introduction to which we use to introduce ourselves to business owners.
Do you own your business, or does your business own you? When was the last time you took time off without having to worry about your business? As a business leader, it can be difficult to spend time away from your responsibilities. But with Momentum Assessor, now you can. Momentum Assessor helps companies like yours to build champion teams, so you have the people you can depend on to run your business while you are away. It is a unique tool which can be used for recruitment and on existing employees for performance assessment and development. Our analysis gives you invaluable people insights that are normally hidden to you, like what they are really thinking, who has clarity on the company's vision, who are the future leaders, and whether they fit the team and the job, each helping you to optimize team performance and strengthen the heart of your business, your people. So now it's time to shut down your laptop, switch off your smartphone, and have a worry-free vacation, knowing that you have your champion team to rely on. Momentum Assessor helps you to work on your business, not in your business. Do you own your business?
Okay, you would have noticed something called common sense, and that is actually a specialty. We test for common sense in layman terms. One of the biggest questions business owners always ask us is, how can I tell which of my people have common sense or not? And we do answer that very, very well. And we'll share with you how we do that in the next few slides. How do we actually put this thing together called Momentum Assessor? We have two tools that we integrate, and one of them is called Momentum Assessor, which is actually a behavioral model, and it measures people's cognitive structure. You can read it as clarity or being able to make sense of a situation, and in many cases, or in most cases, whether the person has enough common sense. We also measure a person's energy and drive, which you can think of it as motivation, emotional balance, which is their sentiment, whether they are happy or unhappy with their work, their problem-solving approach, how confident they are in terms of solving problems, and the way they look at problems, whether they are over-enthusiastic or they're always pessimistic, and their performance in terms of how they cope. Now, on the left-hand side in Momentum Assessor, it's all about behavior. Now, the thing is that once we measure it on, say, work, for instance, it will last about 6 to 8 months, and you need to. We will make another measure again. It's not permanent. Because it's not permanent, you can change things. Unlike the right-hand side, which is your personality, which is the normal 5-dimension factor that the big 5 that we measure, which is standard psychological test for character traits. Openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, emotional stability. These are character traits, and we split them into finer points for those 5 dimensions as well. We put those two together, and what we have is now your personality, your person's character traits, and how they behave. Why is that important? Because if you think about it, when you're with friends and family at home, you are actually behaving as per your character. You are yourself. The minute you turn up to work and the boss walks in to the meeting, you change. Your behavior changes, or you're with colleagues, or you're in a crisis situation, or in a brainstorm. You do change your character because other people around you are different to you, and most of the time in businesses, they are not really your friends; they're colleagues. Because if you didn't work for the same company, you would not have known each other if you pass each other in the street. So why is it important? It's because most people, when they go to work, they have to act out of character at work, and that's a behavior part of it, which is on the left-hand side. How you how you actually influence people, how you persuade people, how you motivate people, and how do you behave yourself. A lot to do with your EQ as well. And again, if you employ people based on character traits, let's say a person is open to experience and has got high creative imagination and has got high assertiveness in terms of extroversion, and this person is fantastic for sales. You employ that person for that role based on the character traits. The problem you have is that when this person is to be promoted to another role, what do? And that role says, okay, this person needs to be precise. This person needs to be needs to have high emotional stability. And you find that, hey, this person's character traits, which doesn't change very much, doesn't have those. Do you promote the person or you don't? So what we do is that regardless of your personality, what you can do is to change your behavior to fit according to the job that's required, to the role that's required. And that's where Momentum Assessor comes in. So Personality Assessor is like an anchor for where we start. And then Momentum Assessor is how do you then steer yourself or steer the employee to better performance through learned behavior, through what we call out of character type behaviors in order to do the new job or to do the role better. Melvin, be the timekeeper for me, yeah?
No worries.
Yeah,
you're doing great.
Okay, so that's why our system is highly unique. It's because we can do this, and we find that it is extremely effective. For Momentum Assessor, we look at something called, you'll be hearing about this, cognitive structure. Think about it as clarity or common sense, and motivation. And motivation is formed of your total energy and drive, the drive to do something, to wake up in the morning and go to work, your emotional balance, whether you are happy or unhappy, and your confidence, whether you're pessimistic or over enthusiastic. And that we put them together in a model. And for Personality Assessor, you can see there's a wheel there with the sub traits of the 5 big factor traits that which is stock standard. Then we combine those two together. When we combine this thing together, what do we do with it? What does our clients get out of it? We use it for organizational alignment diagnostics. We can tell who is miscast, who is demotivated, who is angry, who is highly motivated and ready to go, who is, for instance, totally pessimistic about things, where the hot spots, cold spots, cool spots are. And it's fantastic for CEOs. They love it because you can see overall in one picture where the heat map of sentiments and as well as role fit for each individual team as well as the whole organization. You can think of it as a business health report that we do. We also do fit-ready scores for roles. We have certain criteria which we put into algorithms to show how people fit into the roles, in what percentage they fit the roles. And again, because of our system, it can change. You can change those scores. We do a lot of team analysis, individual diagnostics. We do a boss subordinate fit. Most of the time, people leave a company because of the bosses, and we know that. And we are very accurate extremely accurate in telling you in 6 weeks' time who will leave your company. We then do an overall forward momentum score. Basically, the forward momentum score just answers this question: are your people pushing the business forward, or the business is pulling them along? And what score is that? Is it a positive score or is it a negative score? Negative means you're going backwards. Positive means you're going forwards. And how do you fix that? And because of 1 to 5 above, we can fix it because we can actually get down granularly to where the problem spots are. We also do a lot of recruitment. Recently, last 3 months, we have recruited done the assessment for a CEO for a bank in Malaysia. We are now doing the deputy CEO. We're doing HOOs in Hong Kong. We also do recruitment right down to a driver that will fit a certain particular character trait and behavior of the boss. So it goes from the level of a driver right up to a bank CEO. The system can basically do that spectrum of roles. For training, we can talk about later. We have a training kit and we are building a platform to help do that. Now, I'm going to speed up now because I think in the interest of time, so bear with me if I do miss some of the particulars on the slide, and you can ask the questions later on. What do we then offer as add-on services? And this is where all of you, including people, can help us. We tend to do stage 1 and stage 2. We identify the problem, we align the people to the problem in our process. We do that very well. Embedding and accelerating, that's when a lot of consultancy services come in, and that's where we need a lot of help because we tend not to do too much of that because of resources. What I'd like to do is just to give you a flavor of some user cases that we have done with clients. Now, this is a pizza chain, and it's about 6,000 staff. It's sort of a large pizza chain that we did some work for a couple of years ago. The CEO of the business came to us and said, "Look, I've got stagnant growth. In pizza, you have to every month you got to come up with new ideas and got to come up with new variants and new products for promotion, right? Whether it's Raya or whether it's Chinese New Year, or you invent things so that every month you got something different for people to buy to keep the sales going, because the purchase cycle is it's not every day people eat pizzas. It's probably once in 3 months. So the CEO came to us and said, "Look, we have grown quite big. We're now at 400 million or 500 million dollars in size. We have a problem. I find that our execution is poor and slow. Our managers are weak, and we have high turnover at the ground level. And it's really sort of like making me feel like retiring." So we did MAPA with it. In other words, the health report that we went in there and assessed it. We found that, not surprising, or surprise, that the problem lies with the head of operations. This head of operations was in charge of the whole marketplace, which means that about 4,000 people or 5,000 people under this guy. And the problem was he has good clarity, but he has not very good skills in delegation, so poor empowerment, and he tends to recruit within the industry. He doesn't like to go outside the industry. So every time somebody leaves and somebody comes in, we have the same problem. And the business stays the same. So what we did was we helped them get a new head of operations. There's clarity and empowerment over 18 months. New talent came in, and they helped their delivery times. And in COVID times, they have managed to be about 80% of their normal sales in pre-COVID times, which is very good. So they have also put in new CRMs. They have put in new systems. So this is one of the ways that we help the CEO, and that is to pinpoint exactly where the pain point is, and that is the head of operations. Accounting services, this is an interesting one. The owner came to us and said, I can't play golf anymore because all the problems keep coming back to me. I've got weak senior managers, I've got quality problems, I'm missing deadlines, my clients are not very happy with me. And I think my problem is I expanded too fast through M&A. In about 2 years, he took over about 2 or 3 companies or competitors, expanded his staff from 100 to 400. And when we did the analysis, we found that the problem was when he took over those businesses, the people who have got what we call high structure, in other words, people who can organize or have organized thought, people who can actually have logical thought, people who have high common sense, did not come with a business he bought. They were owners of the business and left. So he was dumped with, not dumped, but he sort of collected a lot of minions that were low in structure, which means that they needed a lot of SOPs for them to perform well. They need a lot of clarity and a lot of handholding and a lot of frameworks. And because there were new businesses coming in, the integration was bad. And he suffered because of that. So we helped them recruit new structured seniors, that word should be structured, not structures, and gave it more clarity and empowerment and new integrated SOPs. And what happens is he's back on the golf course the last 3 years. So that worked out very, very well. So in summary is that in a situation where there's M&A, you have to look at the people who are organized and people who actually can be leaders in terms of knowing what with high common sense. If they leave you, you have a problem, and that's what happened here. There's a jeweler that we also worked with. The owner came in and said, my C-suite is totally ineffective, pretty bad, because they are always confused and they don't know what I'm talking about, and they don't move the needle very much. And the owners were exhausted, the teams are demotivated. And basically what we found was when we did the analysis, we set the 2 owners down in confidence and we just told them straight. Actually, 100% of the problem is you. And the reason is because you have lost clarity. The business has been going for 35 years or something, and they took on too much, and they did not have the clarity. They were changing their minds all the time. They were inconsistent in decisions, and they became impatient and angry, and they were very hard to understand. So we said, look, you have to get yourself together. And we helped them establish a PMO, project management office, which they employed about 4 people, two from the top 5 consultancy firms, to translate their inconsistent decisions and thoughts into logic, into consistent and consistent initiatives, and filter off those thought bubbles that the 2 owners have, and then create an academy. And so far, they have been growing year on year for the last 3 years. They're doing very well right now. So here's another one where 100% of the problem was the owners, and we don't have a problem sitting them down and say, you are the problem. In fact, we just do that about a month ago to another business, and they usually take it very well. What I'd like to do is to, I think I got about 10 minutes left.
Yep.
Okay. What I think I'll skip this one because it's about recruitment. Maybe I'll play it for quickly and see where we go.
It's the problem that every employer dreads. How many times have you hired someone whom appear to be perfect in CVs and during interview, only to realize that they cannot perform as promised? Research has shown that interviews and CVs are poor predictor of future performance. 34% of job application contains embellishment about experience and education, 55% embellish responsibilities, and 57% contain less than accurate skill set. But how can you predict future job performance of a candidate or if they are a good fit for the job and team? Momentum Assessor can unravel this. Needing to hire better, a bank turned to Momentum Assessor for help. We assist them to pre-screen candidates based on required levels of common sense and motivation. Momentum Assessor provides an interview guide tailored to the result of the applicant, thus ensuring consistent and unbiased approach to interviewing. This enabled them to pre-screen 1,000 candidates per year for 100 job vacancies, significantly reducing time cost and workload. What about you?
So in recruitment, it's quite important because, and we face that all the time, people who are low structure and people who are what we call faking good at faking good tend to come across extremely well in interviews. And time again, we have clients employing the wrong people. And we now have clients who trust us explicitly. And when we say, no, don't interview, it means don't interview. So when it comes into our recruitment evaluation, we have a green light and red light. Either you go ahead and interview, and if you interview, here is the customized interview guide that is customized to the results of the applicants when they do our evaluation, as well as the job role. So we also have a job fit that our system calculates for that role, and if it is not up to 75%, you can interview if it's below 75%, and you'll find that you wouldn't employ the person. But we have another very interesting test, which is called the faking good test. And if it is over that threshold, that the person we know is not authentic and will fake good, don't employ the person, because it'll over-promise and under-deliver. And we have been very accurate in that as well. We do this quite a lot. I sit in the interviews as well and help the owners or recruiting person make the decisions. I don't want to take too much time going through this houseware OEM manufacturer in Hong Kong, but suffice to say that they were losing customers. They need to pivot to a new business model. We help them, because we do brand strategy as well. We help them to put a brand strategy together, install new people, and people who can help the business pivot. So last year they grew by 30%, and this next year they're going to grow by 70%. So this one is quite, we took a scalpel to the whole organization. So it's quite a big makeover. I think I got about 5-10 minutes, then I'll shoot past very quickly. So what's the secret sauce behind all this? Basically, we have a very robust framework to work out the performance of people in a company. It goes like this. When we do our evaluation, we can tell whether in a company, whether there is clarity in terms of initiatives, clarity in terms of decisions, clarity in terms of what to do next, in terms of tasks at all levels. Is there clarity at all levels, especially from the top? Because if there's no clarity, there's no empowerment. So clarity drives empowerment. If you're clear, you can be empowered. If your boss is not clear, you second guess and you don't get empowered. And you find that the empowerment score is very low in that person or that team or that company. With empowerment, it drives motivation. If I'm empowered, I will do it because I'm accountable, and I'm measured against it, and clear. With motivation, you get performance. So this is the flow. This is how we actually do algorithms as well to measure performance in a company and how to increase performance. So the formula actually works quite well. Its performance is clarity times motivation. Clarity means aptitude, or clarity means know what to do. So if you know what to do and you've got a high motivation because you got empowerment, performance is very high. If you know what to do, but the motivation is low because there's no empowerment, the performance is low. If you don't know what you're doing and motivation is high, your performance is also low because you make a lot of mistakes. And if both are low, then you can't help it. The important thing is that multiplication sign there, because if you have an organization that has no clarity, and you get people to come in to do a boot camp to give them a lot of motivation and rah for 1 week, you will find that you get more headaches than before, because low clarity always ends up with disaster when you up your motivation. So motivation, when you got clarity and empowerment in an organization worked out, which is the basic foundation of performance, if you increase your motivation, it's just by 10%, your performance goes up by 10%. So what we do with organizations is we make sure that there's clarity and there's empowerment first. Then we move on to motivation, which usually comes automatically. And then you up that motivation through rewards, through points, through whatever it is, and performance just multiplies and goes twofold, fivefold. It's as simple as that. But then you need the metrics for it, which we can provide. I wouldn't go through this. There is a science behind it. It gets a little bit more complicated, and so I don't want to go through it, but there is a science behind it. So how does it work? First, you need data input. So we have an online assessment system that will invite people to come in to do the assessment. We usually have 3 or 4 topics for people to think about. It goes like this: thinking about my life, write as many things as it comes to your mind. We ask them to write about 8 to 12 things in the assessment. It's online, and they can write it in their own language. They can write it in their own way, their own grammar, and it's free form. We don't put any other ideas. We just say, write about your life, what you think about it. Write about your work today with this company, what comes to your mind. Write, what comes to your mind on the way forward for this company. What are the things of me? The brand for this company. We can have many topics as long as it's neutral for people to think about. And once they've written that, we get them to do some gamification, and it's completed. Normally, it takes about 25 minutes to 35 minutes to do both assessments. And that's it. And then it goes to our system, and we'll provide you the details later on. So it's unbiased because there's no cultural bias. There is no statements to rate because it's total 100% input from the respondent or from the employee. So that's why it's very, very accurate, because it's what they say. Now, we always been asked the question, can people lie? It's very difficult. You go to school, you've been taught not to lie. At home, your parents tell you not to lie. So if I ask you to write 8 to 12 statements on each of the topics, it's about minimum of 32 things that you write about. It's impossible to lie. It's very, very hard. Human beings find it very hard to lie at will. So we find that we have been getting very, very good, honest inputs. When they've done this, there is this heat map that comes up as a first total overall view of the company, and you can see those metrics there: cognitive structure, energy and drive, emotional sentiment, problem-solving approach or confidence. Control here just means empowerment and performance. And in this company, you find that and the feeling of empowerment is very low. I feel I'm not very empowered. I think about 2/3 of people feel that they don't have any influence on decisions, and the morale is quite low. They got reasonable good energy, but the energy is negative, as you can see here, low here, and L here, and usually for a company like this, they'll bring in the outside motivational team and give them a rah-rah, and they come back and nothing is solved and things get worse. The reason for the cause of this is actually not motivation. The cause of it is actually lack of clarity. So if you look at cognitive structure for this company, this is overall of, I don't know, the number 1, number 2, number 3 in the organization in terms of levels. You find that in here, the number of people that actually has got clarity of the organization or what to do is only about less than 15%. So if there's no clarity, there's no empowerment. If there's no empowerment, sentiments goes down, and sentiments goes down, which means they're not happy. You find that they're pessimistic, and you find that the performance level slopes from left to right, which means that it's low performance. That's quite typical of a lot of companies, and especially COVID days, that's quite typical. So in other words, we can, on the overall high level, we can already pinpoint which area to look for. Then with that, we can also look into the way forward for this company, same thing, how people feel about way forward. And we can drill down to individuals. And when we drill down to individuals in this company, it's actually the boss that's the problem, as well as the COO. That's also the problem. And of course, also you can see the people with walking sticks and the stop signs everywhere. And you can see airplanes. These people are leaving the company. And we were right. By the time we did this, the people already leaving. So we can get down to individuals, into teams, and what levels, and what is causing what. So in this situation, we need to fix the CEO and the COO, and for clarity, to stop having too many thought bubbles, to prioritize, and to give clear instructions. So this was done about 3-4 months ago for a company. We also, having done this, we also run fitability scores of the managers. And this can change, because as we said to you that it is not character based. It is in fact, you have to perform in spite of your character. And this is what this scores are. So if your score is something like here 24%, which is a business unit director, we go in there and say, look, you can change this. Your personality doesn't suit, but doesn't matter. This is what you do. Because we can give you those scores and those metrics in cognitive structure, in motivation, in all those areas that you looked at, and say, okay, we can teach you how to do this. And we have coaches to do that, but we would love to have more partners to help us do that as well, because we are short-handed. We then go into personal analysis. We look at personalities versus their MA scores, and we can make conclusions out of that and analysis out of that as well, in diagnosis. And we can also fit, for instance, this one is the CEO has lost thinking structure, but the Taiwan CEO can help restore this as to provide motivation and energy at work. So the Taiwan CEO actually is well structured, and you can actually map the two together and how they can work together and help each other. So we can do it right down the organization and sideways as well, to see how people can work together and help each other and where the problems are. In this situation, we have the net momentum score of work as -38, and it goes from -100 to +100, and the brand is +52. So what does it tell you? In this company that you just saw, it's basically the business is carrying the people, not the people carrying the business. In other words, they come in and say, we got a fantastic brand. I come in here, why? Because it will look good on my resume, because I got this famous brand on my resume. right? In other words, what are you contributing to the brand? That should have been asked during the recruitment. But anyway, a lot of people say, I want to go in there because the business is famous, or it's good for my resume. The question should be, what are you going to contribute to building it better? And if you look at this, it's very typical. Work is minus momentum. In other words, going backwards. But in terms of people's happiness, in terms of the confidence, in terms of whether the business is still there, will it pay for my wages, it is very positive. So the business is actually carrying the people, and the people not pushing the business. If you go for another 2 to 3 years, the business will decline. So this is last slide. To summarize, we put all these things together. We do alignment diagnostics, job fit ready scores that you have seen, team analysis, individual diagnostics, how the boss and subordinate, all the way down, boss and subordinates fit together, and the momentum of the business. And the recruitment, very important in recruitment, we can screen off all the candidates that you don't waste time interviewing. In fact, for recruitment agencies, we find that they are bloody hopeless. Sorry about the term, but they're pretty hopeless in interviewing. There are many body shifters. They give candidates that we reject about 70% to 80% of candidates that come across from even very, very good recruitment agencies, because they are not very good in interviewing. Then we do training as well. So this is what we do, and we hope we can work with all of you here today. How can we help? How can we be of help to you? This is the Q&A. And this is the last slide, and I think I have gone about 15 minutes over time.
Thank you, David, for the great presentation. We heard from David about Momentum Assessor, and Personality Assessor, and by fitting these two systems together, Momentum Assessor provides organization alignment diagnostics, team analysis, recruitment, and more. There were great case studies from different industries and how to find the right person for the right role through the results of the assessment. We're now in the Q&A part of the session, and we have a few questions already. Firstly, we have the first question. Leadership DNA, what does it look like, and can it be bought or built?
Leadership can be trained, definitely. We can tell we got a leadership score that will tell you very, very simply how far off this person is from a ideal leadership EQ. Okay, we don't test for competency. We test for common sense and structure, and how you make sense, and do you have clarity? Because if you don't have clarity, you cannot go the next step. If you do, you make a lot of mistakes. So the first thing we test is for leadership EQ is do you have the mental bandwidth, and do you have the emotional structure and profile to be able to lead well. So if you don't have it, we can show you how far you are off, and we can train you, or our partners can train you. Some leaders are born, some leaders are made. Again, it all depends. I think both are as good. Some leaders are just born, like musicians are born, mathematicians are born, and leadership is the same thing. So yes, we can look at the precursors, I would say, of leadership readiness, and that's what we test all the time. But it doesn't mean that if you don't have it, you cannot learn it. You don't have to be born a mathematician to do geometry. You can learn how to do geometry.
Okay, great. A second question from Leah. Have you experienced pushback from employees, and how do you manage it?
We have been very fortunate. We have been very careful in how we do this. First of all, when we first do this, the first download or debrief is to the owners or to the CEO only. Sometimes even the head of HR doesn't get involved. Usually it's just either the number one and number two and the COO. So, and we are extremely transparent with them. And because of that, we get a lot of fleshing out of our analysis as well. Give an example. When we do this, most of the time, actually all the time, we don't know the people in the organization at all. And we don't want to know. So when we come up with the results, as you saw some of the charts that we did, we fly blind of who's behind it. We just got the scores, the behavior and the characteristics, the traits. So then when we do this, we have things like, why is this person having life problem? We can tell things like this person's life is affecting his work, or his work is affecting his life. Or this person is not happy at all at work, angry at work, but when it comes to way forward for this company, the guy is delighted. Why is the case, right? We know what, we do have our hypotheses, but then most of the time the CEO will provide us with answers. Give an example is Hong Kong client, a long-term PA who has got unfettered access to the CEO and the owner. And when we installed a new HOO, a head of operations or COO, she became angry and she was like, basically lost the plot. And what we found is from the scores is that when we ask, and the owner was saying, yeah, she felt that she's been a bit left out now that the new COO is spending more time with me. So it was quite simple. We just changed the title to something very important, and we made sure that she has unfettered access. And today she's very happy. so it can be as simple as that, and it can be as complex. But at the end of the day, when we then take it down to employees, we have to be very careful. We don't go to a person and say, you don't have common sense. I mean, that's not helpful at all. What we do is then we say, okay, here's a range of thinking styles that people have, from very loose style to very, very tight. Very tight are usually people who are engineers or people who are PhDs, they're subject matter experts, and somewhere in between. Some people are exploratory, some people are structured and organized and logical, and some people are analytical. But it's just because you are at either end or anywhere, it doesn't mean that you can't shift. But in order to do this job well, which is, let's say, for instance, a job of that is a job of logistics, for instance, a logistics manager, you need to be at least structured, logical, and analytical, or at least highly specialized. But if your mindset is actually of looser structure, you have a problem, because you can't resolve those complexities that needs really deep analysis and thinking, all right? So either you don't do that job or you train yourself to do it. And when we tell them that, we take them through that process, and people say, oh, is that why I'm so worried every day? Is that why I'm so stressed, right? And we say, look, just because you don't have structure for certain things doesn't mean that you don't have structure for other things. Give an example. If I were to drive around any city or KL, even in KL, if I don't have Waze, my mind is totally loose. I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost all the time. But I need structure. So Waze is my artificial structure. So when I use Waze, my performance is 100%. It's the same thing. We have a company where 70% of their staff, it's a 1,500 staff, has low structure, very low structure, 70% of them, but they are highly profitable. They make R1 billion of sales a year. They're highly profitable. And one of the ways they do it, because they are making drinks, they can actually put in very, very detailed SOPs. And people follow that SOPs. So when low structure people follow SOPs, they become highly effective because they give them structure, and all of a sudden they can apply themselves. So it doesn't mean that when we the pushback is actually almost non-existent when we explain it logically to them and how they can fit into the job, or the job fits into them, or how they can change in spite of their character. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. We have another question from Terrence. Can people's profiles change, and is it dangerous to label people?
Yeah, we don't label people. Like, for instance, if you look at our personality character traits, we don't label you as introverted, extroverted. We don't. We tell you what your traits are, what your dominant traits are, because you don't pigeonhole people. And the reason is because a lot of people act out of character as well. For instance, when at work, I'm very analytical. When out of work, I'm free as a bird. However, in MA, we don't label them. We just say your cognitive structure, because it's behavior, it's not character anymore. For instance, you are totally demotivated, or you're angry. That's not labeling people. That's describing where you are, not who you are. Who you are is your character. So in a character, you find that we don't have, IFRS, whatever it is in the MBTI sort of thing. We don't pigeonhole people because, well, it's unnecessary. So whatever your personality is, you'll find that it's regardless of that. You got to be in spite of that to perform anyway. So we teach you how to perform in spite of your personality. And in MA, there's no pigeonholing. We can say, hey, why are you so pessimistic right now? Why is it that you're over enthusiastic? Tell us why. Actually, we know why, because you've already told us why in your free input. But then we do that in actually also in groups, in workshops. People love it. We get them together, and the boss as well, and they go through the results, and they then understand each other's behavior. So no pigeonholing, no labeling.
We're mindful of time, but let's answer one last question.
Yes.
From Josh. Seems like this is the best for recruiting rather than talent development.
Talent development depends on what you mean by talent development. We do talent development more in the leadership EQ type. How do you have the ideal mindset, thinking style, and how do you manage your emotions? More in that effectiveness of leadership. Now, the areas where when you embed, remember the 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, the embedding part of it and the exerting part of it, that's what we don't do very much, because it's a lot of resources. Give an example is for talent management, you can have competencies. That's one. Competencies in hard skill and other skills as well, in management skills, for instance, leadership skills. When you are managing oneself, what are your priorities? When you manage others, what are your priorities? When you manage managers, what are your competencies? When you manage a business, what are your competencies? They all are different development that you need for talents. But one thing for sure is that if you have somebody who can shape the mind, we call it, you're taught to shape the mind. In other words, if there is a situation where I have to think deep, I will shape my mind to think deep and control my emotions not to jump to conclusions. if there is a situation where I have to think loosely in brainstorming, I can shift myself to brainstorming and then open my enthusiasm. So if you know how to shape your mind and manage your emotions according to situations, and if you're conscious about that and becomes a second nature, that is the highest talent that you can have, because everything else can be learned. If you can't do that, then you're not a very good leader. You see, all the leaders that we have come across knows how to shape the mind, and you can talk to them. They know how to shape the mind, and they can be loose at one time, and they can be highly specialized at the one time, and they can be highly organized at the one time. And when it gets serious, they know what to do. They can actually move accordingly, and within a task and within a crisis, they also shift dynamically, and they control the emotions as well, because how you shape your mind and how you motivate yourself, the multiplying factor of those two products is actually your performance. So if you can do that, then everything else in terms of talent development, you can, we don't do those things. that other people are much more expert than us in doing those other areas. So we are more expert in this area where it sits in your mind and sits in your heart. And how do you do it? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for bringing up your questions, and thank you, David, for answering them. We have come.
Thank you very much.
We would love to receive feedback from you. So flash right in front of the screen is a QR code of a feedback form. The link is also sent into the chat box. So hit right on and tell us how you feel about today's session and what we can improve in our next session. Again, two options for you. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click the direct link. By doing that, let's take this moment to first thank our expert, David Lowe, for the wonderful session. It's really useful and timely. Next, the people team for bringing this event into reality. Of course, the warmest thank you to all the audience we have here for participating in this discussion engaging. If you find this session useful for you, I highly encourage you to check the remaining sessions that we have for the month of August. So this has been Melvin from People, and we'll see you all at the next session. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Thank you, David.
Thank you.